Good afternoon, everyone. Let's talk about food, these tariffs, what's going to get disrupted, how about our repair parts, and the things you need for around your house. Where does it go from here? Because one thing to talk about what comes from China, and we know that's getting cut off, a lot of suppliers. I'll go through some slides here with you. But what about the food and the drink and the imports that we rely on for a good 40% of everything that we consume in the U.S.? Those foods that are out of season aren't going to be coming. What we grow locally, a lot of it's GM. It's meant for ethanol, not really consumption anyway. So where do we go on the growing end of things here, and how much is our agriculture going to need to shift? Well, I got some ideas about soybeans and thing, but really it is about the food source now. This is a perfect excuse why crops are going to be a little limited and food prices are going to continue to increase, and why we need to change how we're doing it right now. That's another thing built into it. But not a lot of people are looking at food. They're looking at parts, repair parts, things manufactured in China, your TV, etc. So let's look at food here first. And we'll start with Italy, one of my favorite countries. Trump's 20% tariff cast a shadow on Italian wine exports. So they're also going to stop selling. If you're going to buy wine from Europe, you might want to buy extra. As it looks now, everything would raise at least $2. So a $10.99 bottle of wine is going to go to $12.99, and something that was $14 to $18 is going to rise to $20. And what they're saying is that's going to price a lot of people out of that market that's in that $10 to $20 range. Once it hits that going over 2022 something, people are going to say, nah, I prefer the $15, not going to spend that much. And in Verona, Italy, actually one of the places I've been, the Prosecco output and their co-op of Italian wine distributors from there, they estimate a 25 to 30% drop in U.S. consumption just on this 20%. It doesn't seem like much, $2, but this is what they're looking at so far. And you can see this where we go everything from the cheese to the olive oils. Now, olive oil is already expensive. You saw that creep up from, say, $15, $16 for one of the largest bottles that you can get all the way to $35, $36 now, and add another 20% to it, and you're looking over $40 for olive oil. See, again, you're going to have to make that choice. Is it worth it? And what's the next healthiest oil that you can use? Because you really want to stay away from the canola oils and things like that. You need to have healthy oils around in your diet, but 20% now at $40. What if it's 50, 60, 100 later? Are you going to be able to pay that price, or are you willing to for your health? That's the thing we're moving into. Worse food choices are a bad thing for everybody. So this chart quite telling, the black dark line in the middle, 2024, that is going to drop off a cliff. So the next time this will come out next month, you're going to see a substantial dip. So 48% of U.S. soybean exports are swooped up by China. Almost half of everything we're sending out of the country in soybean goes to China. They just have cut it off. So where does all that extra go to is the question. I'm sure there'll be, price decreases. Other people will take it up at the same time. But the American farmer relies on China so heavily. As we age, our body's collagen production declines, leading to visible signs of aging like wrinkles, sagging skin, crow's feet, smile lines, and more. These effects start being most noticeable after 40 when our collagen levels are reaching their lowest, and each year they get lower by 1%. Research shows that collagen is responsible for a third of our skin's protein, providing the ingredients skin needs for structure and strength. That's why I've been using Ageless Multi-Collagen for years. That features 5 key types of collagen designed to replenish your skin's collagen levels in combat the effects of aging. Its unique collagen blend is designed to reduce wrinkles, promote youthful glow, skin elasticity, and skin hydration. Help your skin look its best with Ageless Multi-Collagen while it's 51% off now by going to healthwithadapt2030.com. Plus order today and you receive free the 14 foods for amazing skin and a 60-day satisfaction guarantee and free shipping. Once again, this is only available at healthwithadapt2030.com. Click on that link in the description box below. And again, we've gotten ourselves in that loop. So this string it along and we promise you next year, next year. Let me tell you a story about Taiwan. Tilapia. Tilapia business was increasing, so Chinese investors come over and said, build more tilapia ponds, we'll buy everything you can get next year. And they did this for several years in a row, and people were just like, we're going to get rid of our, what they were doing with pigs or with just regular gardening or orchards, or scrape it out, strip it off. We're going to build fish farms. And they had massive investment into the tilapia farms. And then there was a tit for tat politically, and then China just cut it off and said, no more tilapia. We want zero tilapia from Taiwan. It crushed that industry and then the reverberations that went through everywhere else as well. The reliance on it and those teasing carrot sticks is where we've gotten to. 48% reliance on a single nation. That's absurd that it's swung that high. That's a danger. That's a national security risk in itself. So now what are these soy farmers going to do? Well, they have a couple choices. They could not plant and get the USDA money, which the USDA absolutely would be jumping for joy. They want to take acreage offline anyway. Or they can substitute crops, but then where's the buyer and where's machinery to harvest that? It's specialized. You're going from a large, bean down to something smaller like amaranth or millet or whatever. You got to retool machinery, and just a lot of places aren't ready for that. So prices are going to fall in the interim here, but you do the Rubik's Cube on how farmers can rebalance that. And remember, they own on their loans. They owe it. So how do they pay back? Or do they default and their farms are swooped up? I mean, whose fault is that for getting them on this, never-ending, government trade deal to another government, and now the tit for tat, just like the tilapia, and now no soybeans. So who's responsible for paying those loans back? Shouldn't be the farmer. If the USDA and other government bodies have arranged for those sales into China on a government co-op buy, for example, farmers shouldn't be liable for that. They should not have their land taken away because of this bad policy. And it's being exposed. That is true exposure. 50% of your business reliant on one nation that is politically, trying to dominate. And that's the status quo, is just instantly stopping trade. That's so common what they in China do after they bring you along to this incredible apex of production or delivery in some sort of good or commodity, and then they just cut it off. Time and time and time and time and time. Should I say, and time again. That is just the playbook, and we fell for it. Which means we're going to have to start growing it locally, and are these types of, this is strawberries in China, where these trays come down and people are able to you-pick, for a better term, while you're eating in the restaurant there. Is it going to come to that? Is the question. So now let's come to aerospace industry for a second here. Howmet Aerospace may halt some shipments if they're impacted by tariffs, which they were tremendously. And now they're declaring force majeure event, meaning act of God, we cannot deliver your parts. I know it was contractual, but it was unavoidable, unpredictable circumstances in the litigation side of things. Is like, no. You already knew this as a possibility as Trump came in the election campaign as one of the promises last year. How dare you say it was unavoidable and it came out a bolt from the blue. It was an act of God. No, it wasn't. So how could you not be prepared for that? And you have to realize that is repair parts for our fleets of aircraft flying through the skies, whether it's your private jet, whether it's commercial, military. And see, that's another insane thing that we left manufacturing for our military hardware in China for parts of it. That should have never, ever, ever, never gone outside the U.S. That should have been 100% lock, stock, and barrel done from start to finish in America. Not relying on at least one or two parts to allow your aircraft to fly from somebody manufacturing overseas. The next thing to hit is going to be the shipping contagion. So as we walk down the line of things, so your airplane parts have pretty much stopped, at least in one of the largest vendors of that category. And as we look through aluminum and steel, well, shipments are being returned right now. So how long is it before aircraft stop flying because of, well, they just can't get parts into the United States? That's another question, but it goes right along with a lot of those plans I saw where they wanted to reduce air travel by 2030. Coincidental, isn't it? And off the Small Medium Enterprise Bankruptcy Watch and Cargo Systems Messaging Service Bulletin. This is on April 8th last week. New 113%, and that's since increased, and that will be what they charge coming into the warehouse for consumption. Now you'd say, all right, well, let's get some real examples. Small business here ordered $3,300 worth of aluminum parts from China, and the import duty was $2,400. So they're going to let it go back. And remember, this is prior to the last increase. So you can see the price would not be $3,300. It would be closer to $5,800 for that shipment. So then they're going to pass the cost on, and those will be sent back. Again, this is what's going along here in terms of our availability. So ink cartridges for your printer, any of this kind of stuff that you're going to need, get it now. Just got an email from a Chinese distributor saying they're no longer distributing products to the U.S. Okay, that seems like it is across the board. And then this one nobody is really talking about, but is obviously the biggest headline. Amazon cancels inventory orders from China due to the tariffs. So again, how many more businesses are going to go out of business, small or medium-sized businesses? Not the giants, not the bigs. They're still allowed to operate. Remember in COVID, almost all the small biz went out of business. If they're held on by a closed wire and a hurricane to get through those years of COVID, here we arrive at the tariffs, and now if they can't get product, it's not about raising the price. You just can't get it. That's food too. I don't care if you have the money. If you can't get food, you just can't get it and eat it. This is the next thing in this Rubik's Cube of, all right, there's going to be some spot shortages in stores of things you used to love to consume. Where will you get it from? Well, it doesn't look like you will for a minute. But again, wasn't that all the plan by 2030 to reduce consumption of an enormous amount of things, get us back to regionalization, cut supply chains, reduce your consumption of a lot of things, including getting 3 or 4 pairs of clothes per year and only traveling once every 3 years, something like this on airlines. Well, it all starting to fit into place here. If all these tariffs really take their most massive bite out that they can, then we're going to be exactly where that plan was and had predicted to put us. We'll end up right there anyway. So you're going to have to make a plan for yourself. Are you going to be able to grow your own food, or what are you going to do? Olive oil you could maybe do without. Wine, definitely we can do without. But thing you can't do without, you should make a list of that. Because once it stops, it stops. And we're seeing this stopping right now. I would give it 3 weeks before you see shortages. And like not entirely empty stores, but you'll notice pockets empty. And it'll be people talking about it, water cooler talk for a better term. So I wish you the best in your preparations. Food's going to be the integral, most important one out of all of those, if you're going to be able to have food and clean water. And it is planting season. TrueLeafMarket.com. Heirloom and organic seeds for any grow zone on the planet. That link's in the description box below. Help support the channel. Any purchase you make allows me to bring you more information just like this. And also join us over on TikTok, Civilization Cycle. That link's also in the description box below. 2-minute nuggets of the same information if you're not into the long content. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.